Hey, if you ever wondered if tech use is really bad for your brain, or perhaps that you use your phone and when you use your phone you get a little bit nauseous perhaps, or maybe you're concerned about how much time your kids are spending on tech. If that's you, then this video is all for you. Hey, I'm Trevor Chakuni here from SpineWise, and I want to talk to you today about the effects of tech has in a very particular area of the brain and how that actually manifests itself. And if you are loving our videos, please do us a favor and like and subscribe to our channel. This is the easiest way we can keep you up to date with all the information that we bring out. Alright, so let's have a look at tech use and how it might be affecting your brain, because there's actually a lot of different ways that tech can potentially affect the brain. I want to talk to you about one mechanism which is really important. This is probably the most significant one we see for most people. So when we look at the brainstem, this is the upper part of your brainstem known as your midbrain. We have four little circles at the back of them. These are called our colliculi, our superior and inferior colliculi. And this whole area really is your flight or fight centers. This is the sympathetic house. This is where all of your brain arousal, I shouldn't say all of it, but a lot of the brain arousal rate gets driven from. And we get inputs into that area from your eyes, from your ears, from your face, from your jaw, from your neck. There's a whole sensory mechanism that goes into that, and it's designed to keep you alive. So for instance, if you've ever been walking down the street and all of a sudden you find a bug flies in your eyes and you blink and you kind of catch it before you're even aware there was something there, it's this system that you're most likely firing off. So that's where it works for us, but in some instances it actually works against us too. And the one we really want to refer to today is this one here, our eyes, and the input that we get into this system from our vision. And there's a few things that really drive this, and that is high frequency light. That's the first one that's important. I'm going to come back to what that means in a second. Next one is high flickering light, so flashes of light. And we've all been into different cinemas and studios and things like this where there are warnings up saying warning strobe lighting. And this is really what it's about. That bright flickering light can increase the input into this area, and in some people can set off migraines and seizures and things like that. And the other one is vertical tracking, so slowly moving your eyes up and down, which is also a role of that upper part of your brainstem. So when we start stimulating this area here, we start stimulating this part of the brainstem, and as we stimulate that part of the brainstem, it can increase our brain arousal rate. That can affect our cortex, can affect our frontal lobe function, and a whole lot of other areas of the brain, which can then lead to attention problems and behavioral problems, and a whole lot of other things. Even neuronal fatigue can be part of that as well. And these are some of the things that we see in young kids who are spending way too much time in tech. If you've ever had a child that spent a lot of time, say a couple of hours on a video game, and you ask them to get off, that inherent behavior, that frustration effect that you get straight afterwards, and if it's recurrent, they're spending more and more time on it, it can actually become a bigger and bigger problem for them heading forward. And there is some evidence early on to say that frontal lobe damage may be occurring in some of these kids with prolonged tech use. Alright, so let's come back to this though, and let's talk about high frequency light. So light is actually a bandwidth. It's a whole section of light. So if we look at it and we drop a line from here to here, and we say this is light, on this end we've got things like UVA and UVB. On this end we have things like infrared light. And the interesting thing about that whole light spectrum, that whole frequency range, is we actually only see a very, very, very small portion of it as human beings. So we have a very restricted amount of light that we can actually see. For instance, we can't see infrared. You can't see that heat that you get off the sun. You can't see UVA and UVB, the stuff that burns your skin. Okay, so these are the things that we just can't see. Our visual field is very, very small. But in that, we have, inside that visual spectrum, we have various colors that we see as well. And some of these colors are higher on that spectrum, and some of these colors are lower in the spectrum. And if you remember your rainbow, really what you're seeing is that visual spectrum broken up by water and running through light. And this is really our old friend Roy G. Biv. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. These are our colors of our rainbow, if you remember. Yep. And that's the order of frequency as well. So when we start down here in the red section, these are our very low frequency light that has quite a very mild level of stimulation on the brain. And as we get to the other, and we get to our blue areas, these blue lights have high levels of stimulation to the brain. In other words, they put high amounts of input in there. And one of the big things we have with our tech devices is most of these things are what we call full spectrum light. So they have the full range of these colors involved, which allows you to see that beautiful clear graphic on your phone or on your tablet or on your laptop. And that problem with that is that so much of it comes from that blue source. As we said before, that blue source is stimulatory. It has a really high level of stimulation into this area. And what makes it worse is when we're on these devices then, and we're then looking at these screens with this bright flashing blue based light, and then we start scrolling vertically as well, and our eyes are going up and down, and now we're stimulating this here. So we have the potential to stimulate this, and this all at the same time, putting huge amounts of input into our brainstem. And therefore potentially changing the way our brain functions. In some instances short term, in some instances can be longer term as well. Alright, so what are the few things that we can do to try and help reduce this? Well, the obvious one that you've heard of probably in the past is by using blue light filtration. And we can get glasses that do this, that protect your eyes, that work that way. Most of our computer systems and our technological devices, including our phones, all have blue light filters built into them that you can switch on directly. Some of the phones also have a grey mode where they remove all colour altogether, which is even better yet. So that's the first thing you do using blue light filters. There is software such as Flux and Iris Mini that you can put onto your PC for free or onto your Mac for free, and these things will also help protect your eyes by reducing down that blue glare. The other one, of course, make sure we're just limiting tech use, especially in young kids. We need to limit it down and just give them a chance to let their brains grow naturally without all that excessive stimulation. And when we start talking about this, there's two ways of looking about it. One is a daily limit and the other is the weekly limit. I'm always a fan of keeping limits down to no more than an hour a day. I know we need to use tech for work and for school and things like that, but the more you can reduce it, the better. And we need to be having at least one completely tech-free day per week. That's no use whatsoever, at least once a week. Distance is another one. So the further away it is from you, the less input you're going to get from those bright lights. So let's just going to brighten up your face. And for this reason, we tend to see things like TVs have much less of an effect on people than phones directly. So that's one thing to look at. Reduce our scrolling, so where possible, don't look at the screen and scroll at the same time. If you can, just move to the area you need to and just read from those areas rather than actually constantly keep scrolling over and over again, stimulating that vertical tracking from the eyes. The final one is lighting. Lighting is really, really important. And when I talk about lighting, I mean this in a few different ways. First of all, glare. So reflections off the screen can help further drive issues within this area. And also the ambient lighting in the room. So if the brightest light source in the room is your tech device that you're looking at is lighting up your face, this seems to have more of an impact on people than if you have lighting everywhere and this is diffused, this light from your tech device is diffused into that light. The other thing to look at as well, if you're having a computer screen, is making sure you don't have the window right behind your screen. So if that is the case, what will often happen is that you'll have a varying light source between the screen you're looking at and the light source behind it, the window. So the eyes, like a camera, will either decide to focus in light-wise from behind the computer, which means that you don't get good vision of the computer and creates potentially eye strain, or you focus in on the computer itself and that potentially lets too much light in and once again stimulates that area of the brain. So there's a few key little things that you can do to help reduce the impact of technology on your eyes. I hope this helps a little bit understand the potential damaging effects of prolonged tech use in kids as well as in adults. So there's many different mechanisms by which it affects human brain function and physiology. This is just one of them, but this is one of the very, very simple ways which seem to affect things on a broad scale. So anyway guys, if you have any questions with that, what you should do, what you can't do, perhaps you just want me to have a look at how your setup is in and perhaps give you some feedback, just post them up. Always happy to help out in any way, shape or form that we can. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.